Welcome to the Penrith Solar Center Solar Academy. Today we're going to be talking about which way should my solar panels face on my roof. Now don't worry, you won't need a PhD in maths to stick with me on this one. By the end of this video, you're going to know exactly which way performs best on a roof in Australia, as well as what angle the sun is at during winter and summer, and is it ethical to put solar panels on the southern side of any home in Australia? Let's take a look. So first things first. For years now, we've all heard people say that if your solar panels aren't on the north, then they're not worth having at all. Well, that's not actually entirely true. You see, if you put solar panels on the north at a 30-degree pitch, they will be about 99% efficient. Sounds pretty efficient, right? And it certainly is. Now, the problem with loading up your north roof is that that energy is being generated really strong between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. Now, I don't know about you, but my home actually doesn't use that much energy between 10 to 2. So for me, the east and west roof are actually better. And for most of Australia, it's the same case. Now you're thinking, but Jake, does the east and west roof actually get sun? Well, it's been proven time and time again that an east and a west roof actually perform between 87 to 89% efficiency. So yes, we do lose about 11% of our total overall production throughout the day, but what we gain is usable energy. Now, the goal with solar power is maximum self-consumption. Let's use as much of our energy as we possibly can, then we tuck it in a battery, then we sell it to the grid. So an east and west roof is actually really good, and it's more efficient than what people think. There is one other roof which I haven't yet mentioned, which is the south roof. The south roof drops down to high 60s to low 70% efficiency. And what you'll actually find with a southern roof is that in Australia, particularly New South Wales and especially Queensland, the southern roof sometimes will actually outperform a northern roof. The downside is in winter, it gets smoked. It is not ideal if you've got a huge winter consumption. But if you're a home that still has a wood-fired fireplace and your demand isn't that high in winter, the southern roof may be something to consider. My old home, which I've moved out of now, had all southern roof. I didn't have a choice of north roof at all. I filled the southern roof, and my power bill was zero. So it is totally possible to achieve a net zero result with only having a southern roof. Perfectly north is seen to produce the most kilowatt hours all day round. Not many of you actually have a 30-degree roof either, by the way. In Australia, the average roof that we see is between 20 degrees to 25 degrees. Now, what do I mean about degrees? Well, think of the tilt of the solar panels. If they were flat, they would be 0 degrees. If they were completely vertical, they'd be 90 degrees. So the optimal is actually around 30 degrees, but most of us have about 22 degrees. Now, if you have a 22-degree roof, is it worth modifying your roof to get it to 30? Absolutely not. The loss of around 8 to 10 degrees makes very little difference in our solar panels output. In fact, on an east and a west roof, the flatter they actually are, the better they perform in summer. The steeper the roof is with an east and a west, the worse they perform in winter. So when you think about the concept of a pitch of roof, we don't use tilt frames at Penrith Solar Center. We are very much against them unless the roof is completely flat. The only reason we'd use them if the roof was completely flat is because anything less than 3 degrees will generally void your panel manufacturer's warranty. So that's a bit about the tilt of your solar panels. Another factor of our overall solar setup is, of course, being conscious of where the sun travels on your property. Now, we all know that in winter we have shorter days. Why do we have shorter days? Well, it's simply because the sun rises and sets shorter than in summer, when the sun rises right on one side in the east, goes over the top of us and sets in the west. Now, what does that actually mean? Well, put simply, the sun in summer is at a steeper angle to your property, somewhere around 90 degrees. It comes right over the top of your home. But in winter, the sun is on a lower angle, somewhere around 25 to 35 degrees. Now, What that does is in winter makes your panels catch less electrons or less rays and therefore giving you less energy. So the steeper your panels are pitched, or the steeper your roof face, the better your system will actually perform in winter. The flatter your panels, even if they're flat on the roof, the better your system will perform in summer versus systems that are tilted right up. And the reason is simple, because the angle of the sun is right above the panels, where if you have a steep roof pitch in winter, the angle will align with your panels. That's something to take into consideration, but we can't all modify our roofs to suit the perfect sun. So in solar, you'll hear a lot of people talk about never eat soggy wheat bix, and that's of course north, south, east and west. But technically, it's actually called azimuth. Now azimuth is out of degrees. You have 0 degrees up the top, 90, 180, 270, and of course back to 0. I got you, you thought it was going to be 360. So back to 0. Now, when we're talking about angle of panels and we talk about putting your panels on the north, that would be facing them at perfect 0. If our panels go on the east, we're facing them at 90 degrees. And if we put our panels on the west, we're talking 270 degrees. So some solar installers may talk to you about azimuth. And in fact, in every single one of Penrith Solar Center's quotes in the assumed values page, we'll actually tell you what azimuth we're going to have your panels facing. Here are some azimuth examples. If you've got a home or a roof face that faces perfect north, it's technically 0 degrees. Now, your panels will be between 98 to 99% efficient. But the azimuth is just one part of the equation. The second part of the equation is, of course, what we've already spoken about, tilt of panels. So tilt combined with azimuth is going to give you your overall efficiency of your panels. The next example is 270 degrees, which is perfect west. Now, what you'll find with perfect west, depending on the pitch of your panels again, is that you'll be between 86 to 89% efficient. So here's a great example of the southern roof that everyone tells you to stay clear of. I'm going to give you this example and then you can make up your own mind as to whether you think it would be worth it for you to put panels on your south roof or if you'd prefer to steer clear. So this example is a perfectly southern facing system, which of course is 180 degrees azimuth at a 20 degree roof pitch or tilt. That system will be 73% efficient on average all year round. What you'll actually find is that in summer, it will probably be 80% or higher, but in winter, you'll see it 60% or lower. Now, that exact same southern facing roof, if that panel was not 20 degrees and was actually at 30 degrees, what you would find is that actual annual efficiency would be an average of 63%. So my point of telling you this is if you do have the southern roof and it's only a 10 degree pitch, throw the panels on there. Be aware of what it's actually going to do for you and enjoy the benefits of it in summer. If your roof pitch on the south is up around 30 degrees, 45, 90 degrees, I'd really recommend against using that. For most of the year, it's not going to be that good for you. In summer, it will do a little bit, but you're probably better off putting the funds into a battery and utilizing your east, north, and western roof to power your home. So, if you've got a northern roof on your home, half your luck. Load it up. Be grateful for the extra kilowatt hours that you're going to produce. But if you've got an east and a west split on your home, then here are some pro tips for you to get the most out of your system. If you're a family that wakes up and does everything in the morning, and I'm talking everything, then what you'll want to do is exactly what's happening on this home here. We've got 2/3 of the panels on the east and only 1/3 on the west. Now that's personally not my preferred method because I don't use that much energy in the morning. I'm a very heavy afternoon user. But if you know your family and you know your energy habits in the morning, you might wake up, you might get the washing done straight away. There might be heated floors on in the morning only. You might run your pool timer in the morning. Or the other fact is that you might just have a really strong, big eastern roof face and only a small north or a west roof face. This is probably the design for you. If you're a family with a great east and west roof face that are pretty evenly sized and you're not sure whether your energy consumption is going to be more in the morning or more in the afternoon, or you're pretty consistent throughout the whole day, then this might be the design for you. This is half of the panels on the east and half of the panels on the west. This will mean that you get very strong morning generation and very strong afternoon generation. This is a little more common than the previous example I showed of loading up the east. But here is my number one tip for those with an east-west roof. Here it is, the Penrith Solar Center Magic East-West formula. For years and years, we've installed solar on east and west roofs. And what we've noticed with clients who have this east and west roof is that they get terrific results on their power bill. Now, most of them have this one same equation in common that I personally came up with back in around 2017. I studied people's power bills and I studied people's energy consumption. And what I learned was that in Australia, in Western Sydney, we love the aircon. In fact, we're addicted to the air conditioner. We can't get enough of the aircon. People are setting it to 22 degrees. They want to run it all the way from 12 o'clock into the evening, 8 o'clock at night, whatever that looks like for your family. And if that sounds like you, you'll have enough energy in the morning to do those tasks like boil a kettle, maybe make a coffee, maybe you might even put a load of washing on. You can get the kids ready for school, no problems at all. But by the time the sun comes up over the top of your house, your western panels are ready to go. Now, if you're a home with a high aircon usage, the kids come home from school and they want to play in the afternoon, maybe you've got a water pump that you run in the afternoon or a pool that you can set on a timer and use in the afternoon. I promise you, if you've got a strong east and west roof and you don't actually know where to put your panels, lean on this equation. 1/3 on the east, 2/3 on the west, you can't go wrong. But of course, we're not all blessed with unlimited roof space. So my overall number one tip for you is fill what you've got. In Australia, we're paid a government rebate or STC scheme based on the number or kilowatts of panels that we install. It doesn't matter if it's north, east, south, or west. The more you get on there, the better the result is going to be for you and your family, and the more energy you're going to have to live a free energy lifestyle. Of course, the more solar you put on your home, the more excess energy you're going to have to charge a battery as well. Check out some of our videos and articles on battery storage and how to best shape and tilt your panels to charge a battery at all times. Thanks for watching. Enjoy the article. We'll talk to you soon.